until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did, was they liked indicting people. But they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, you know, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody was smart that believed in that, and there were a lot of people believing it. Anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they thought that, they actually thought that I was doing it, they said, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry.
Donald Trump had quite the day today. He started it off by attacking President Zelensky and praising Putin. Then he decided he would announce himself as king of the country and post a photo of himself in a crown. Because why not at this point? He has lost it so much. But that wasn't enough for Donald Trump. He also had to finish the day with one of the most insane speeches we have seen through his entire presidency. I know it's only been 4 weeks, but it feels like it's been 4,000 years. There has just been so much news, but it was such a bad speech. It ended up leaving the crowd of investors at the Miami Investor Conference that Donald Trump was at completely silent with the ridiculous things that he was talking about. And we are going to get into that all and have some fun with it. We're going to make fun of Donald Trump a lot, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now let's check out this first ridiculous and hypocritical clip.
Money. And in another program, $50 million plus another $50 million for condoms for Hamas. You know about that? $100 million for condoms. Condoms. Does everybody know what a condom is? For Hamas. $100 million. And these are just some. I could read this list all day long. I just don't want to bore you.
So, a little piece of news came out today about how much Donald Trump's golf game, which it is insane that he is saying people shouldn't be able to work from home when all he's been doing is working for Mar-a-Lago. But Donald Trump, so far in his presidency, has cost you $107 million. US, the taxpayers, we cover those costs to play golf at his clubs, pocketing that money. That is what Donald Trump has done already. Hey, Elon, all those Doge bags, those little engineer kids, I found the waste. I know you don't actually care about it, but if you want to look into the waste, we found some for you. It's speaking of Donald Trump putting money into his pockets. We saw the 9,000th violation of the Hatch Act here with Donald Trump talking up his own businesses with the presidential seal in front of him.
I've actually built a lot of great buildings with the Desert family and some others. We've had tremendous success in Miami. We have Trump Towers and Sunny Isles Beach. It's 4 beautiful buildings right on the ocean. The Trump Grande, put the little E in the end for a little, class it up a little bit. Trump Grande, and the 700-acre Doral. It's a tremendous country club, and it's actually the most successful country club in the U.S., where I was just given approval to build 1,500 units, and I couldn't care less about building units. When you're president, who the hell wants to build units? I've been building units all my life. I don't want to build units, but they gave us permission to do it.
Doral. Donald Trump never, ever misses an opportunity to be corrupt. He's just like Elon Musk. They're a partnership made in hell in that way. They just love being corrupt and talking up your own businesses, acting as president to a group of investors. I guess there is already so much corruption and criminality that we kind of look past this. But it's always important to point out whenever Donald Trump just says something that in any other time, in any other place, with any other president would be huge news. And that is exactly what this statement was right here.
and $21 million for voter turnout in India. What do we need to spend $21 million for voter turnout in India? Wow, $21 million. I guess they were trying to get somebody else elected. Well, we ought to tell the Indian government, because when we hear that Russia spent about $2 in our country, it was a big deal, right? They took some internet ads for $2,000. This is a total breakthrough. $21 million for India.
All right, so Donald Trump always wants to say that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election, the 2020 election, or the 2024 election. And believe me, I have not forgotten the BS that were called in Georgia, in North Carolina, the bomb threats from Russia. Do you remember that story that night that no one wanted to cover? From some reason, the bomb threats that kept people from voting, that kept polling locations closed? No, we're just going to move on from that. We don't need to look in that to that, of course, but Trump saying, oh, what Russia spent a couple $1,000s is way more than that. Interfering with our election. No biggie. I really wonder what those Putin calls been about that have gotten him to so quickly. I don't even want to say turn on Zelensky because he was never supporting him, but just publicly attack him so much and now bring up Russian election interference. It's ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous and terrifying attacks, listen to what Donald Trump had to say about Social Security.
We're also finding tremendous abuse, waste, and fraud in Social Security. Social Security is what's happening there is going to be one of the great potential scandals in history. On the program, there are over 4.7 million Social Security numbers from people from 100 years old to 109. Think of that.
The last time Trump described something as being big and beautiful and fantastic, quite frankly, so great, it was his health care plan that was 2 weeks away and never came. So in my mind, Donald Trump saying that he's going to have a great Social Security plan no one's ever seen before means he's taking it all away and privatizing it at. That's what that sounds like to me, and I'm sure the investors there love to hear it, and I'm sure they love to hear what Donald Trump had to say here, but it was so insane and an admission of a crime committed by the Trump administration that they were just silent. I think just kind of stunned by how brazen he was.
In addition, over the past month, we have effectively eliminated the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was funding much of this lunacy. We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them. What they were doing was so terrible. Where they were spending the money was so terrible. What we haven't looked at yet, but will be, is does the money come back to them? Because nobody can be stupid like that. And they're not stupid. They're smart, actually. And, you know, why are they doing that? Does money come back to them? So we'll figure that out pretty easily, I think, and quickly.
You would assume that a bunch of greedy, corrupt corporate investors would be psyched about the shutting down of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They'd love that. But the way that it comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, I'm sure must be so icky for them. I'm sure their cash makes them feel a little bit better about all of it, but just weird stuff. It is just so strange still for him to be president again. And talking about the criminal ways that he is shutting down agencies, the power he is putting in his own hands that he's bringing in from everywhere, condensing all the way into the executive branch. He posted a picture of himself, and so did the White House official account on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of him wearing a crown. They're saying the quiet part out loud, and they're acting like it, and all those actions by Donald Trump, they're backfiring. All the unilateral authority. It's not going too well for me or you, or mostly people in red states, a lot of backfiring, and Rachel Maddow had a piece that won't make you feel good about it, but it kind of make you laugh on this clip right here.
Night that the Trump administration accidentally, totally didn't mean to fire the people working on bird flu. No idea how that happened. Now the bird flu experts at USDA, they are trying to hire them back. They did this with the National Nuclear Security Administration as well, which we talked about on last night's show. Now it's with the bird flu workers. Oops. What does this button do? Does anybody know what this button does? I thought I should ask because just a minute ago I just pushed it. Does anybody know what it does? Got any other buttons I can push? The Washington Post reports tonight that the Trump administration is considering a plan to incinerate $500 million worth of COVID tests that you've already paid for. It's not because there's anything wrong with these COVID tests. It's just because, I guess, COVID tests, icky. $500 million worth of perfectly good COVID tests that we, the taxpayers, already purchased. They are in storage. They are stockpiled right now, set to be distributed for free to the American people in the event of another big uptick in COVID. But instead, the Trump administration apparently wants to destroy them because, government efficiency. The Trump administration just today fired more than 10% of the staff at the National Science Foundation. National Science Foundation was founded in 1950 to promote science and engineering and work on U.S. defense and public health. National Science Foundation provides a quarter of the federal support that goes for basic research at America's colleges and universities. It's how we fund astronomy observatories. It is how we fund our research stations in Antarctica. Trump just today fired a huge proportion of their workforce. A senior engineer at the GSA, the General Services Administration, has also just resigned today, reportedly after trying to block people working for President Trump's top campaign donor, Elon Musk, trying to block one of Musk's guys from a system called Notify.gov. Notify.gov is a system whereby the government can contact you directly. Individual citizens can be contacted directly from federal agencies. It is a secure system. It's obviously very sensitive because it's your personal cell phone number that is linked to information about you and your status and involvement with any number of government agencies. Obviously, that's a very sensitive thing. But this man named Thomas Shedd, who until recently worked for Tesla, but was just installed inside the GSA by the president's top donor, Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla. Mr. Shedd apparently demanded full read-write access to that Notify.gov system. In response, the lead engineer in charge of that system, a GSA employee named Stephen Riley, apparently, quote, objected to Shedd's ability to view phone numbers and variable data for members of the public, information that Shedd, quote, would be able to download and store without anyone knowing. Riley wrote to his colleagues that once he had obtained this information, Shedd, quote, could also grant the same access to others. He said, quote, we have not received a justification for this request, which makes it difficult to suggest alternative approaches that would accomplish Shedd's goals while still being protective of personally identifying information for members of the public. Riley said, quote, I don't believe I can operate a program and system without the ability to manage access to personally identifying information about American citizens. He said, quote, as a result, I have submitted my resignation to GSA. Today will be my last day. So the lead engineer at the General Services Administration trying to protect your personally identifying information linked to your cell phone number and resigning in protest when he couldn't do it. In resigning on these terms, he has let we, the public, know that President Donald Trump apparently wants to give your cell phone number and personally identifying information about you, including any of your interactions with any federal government agency, to a random guy from Elon Musk's car company. And wants to give him this information in a way that would allow him to walk out the door with it and give it to anyone else he wanted. So by resigning, trying to stop it, being unable to stop it, resigning in protest, and then explaining exactly why he resigned and what the problem was, he has let the public know that this has just happened to us, which itself is a mitzvah.
We have morons running our government. We really do. We really do. It's painful. I don't even know what to do at this point. I don't even know what to say, except at least it's hurting red states the most. I hate to be fully on board with just like MAGA learning their lesson because these are real people. Unfortunately, they are Trump voters. But hey, learning your lesson. And we're going to call that out and try to bring a little joy talking about it on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.